Mr. Blinkoff, how's it going?
Doing really good. Thanks so much for having me, Ben.
Thank you. And if I'm allowed to ask, what part of California are you in?
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah, right near
Nice.
right near Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Very cool. Do you get to, I mean, is it like how it is in the movies where you get to drive down the street and there's the large palm trees and the big houses?
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. There's actually a street 2 minutes from here. It's called Palm. And that's the street that they shoot all the movie shots. And every day I would drive back and back forth through that street. And there's always people stopping their cars, getting out, taking selfies, taking pictures every day. It's like the most famous street in the world. And just because of the trees. Yeah, it's right there.
A quick question about Beverly Hills. Have you ran into Jack Nicholson yet? Or does he live in that area?
No, the only place I ever saw him was at a Laker game. As everyone knows, he sits in the front. He has floor seats to the Lakers, and he has for the past 35, maybe even more years. So I have seen him at Laker games, but I've run into many celebrities over the years here. Actually, just a couple weeks ago, I was with my kids, and David Blaine, the magician, was
Love
having
that guy.
ice cream with his kid. 2 minutes later, I saw Steve Guttenberg. Remember him
Mhm.
from Cocoon and the Police Academy movies? That was like 1 minute later. You never know who you're going to see. There's always somebody. One time I was sitting with, this is years ago, we were at an Italian restaurant, and sitting behind us, right next to us, was Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins.
Oh yeah.
Like right next. One time, Don Rickles was sitting next to us. One time, Bill Cosby was sitting next to us. I mean, it's you never know. You
Oh yeah.
never know.
Never know. And same when it comes to making connections with people. Like you never know you're going to make connections with, or you never know who you're going to get spotted by on social media.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely right. You're so right. Yeah.
And speaking of meeting people, you were at an event and you actually got to meet Joshua Bassett from the High School Musical, the musical series on Disney Plus. What was that experience like?
Yeah, we were in an event it's basically raising money for people who are underprivileged, people battling drugs, addiction, all kinds of real challenges, painful things. And this was an event at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Actually, I think it was the Beverly Hills Hotel. And he got up on stage and spoke for just a minute. And my wife and I remarked to each other how impressed we were by the humility and graciousness of this kid. I mean, he's got to be what, 23, 24 years old, major celebrity among teenagers. I mean, if you're over the age of 30 right now and you're listening to his name, you're like, wait, who is that? But if you're, 20 or younger, you're freaking out right now because you know who he is. And my wife and I were like, wow, he's really humble. This is an amazing guy. And about, I don't know, 20 minutes later, he went off to the bathroom. And my wife was like, let's go meet him on the way back. I'm like, all right. So we come out of the big conference room that we're in. It's like a big dinner, fancy dinner. And we're just like kind of stalking outside the bathroom, waiting. Sure enough, he walks out, and my wife and I go up to him. We're like, dude, we got to tell you, you're such a great guy. We really appreciate how sincere you are and how humble you are. And he was just so gracious. I actually invited him to be on my podcast. I have a podcast called Life of Awesome, and he agreed to be on it. The interview's coming up soon, and just a sweet guy. I mean, he really is a message for everybody that it doesn't matter how quote unquote big you get, how much money you make, how powerful, how famous you are. Never forget what life is really about. It's not about, how much do I get? It's how do I get into a position that I can give? How do I give? That's a meaningful life. Winston Churchill had an amazing quote. He said, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And Joshua really embodied that.
Very cool. It's funny. I haven't met him yet, but I have made over the summer. I made connections with his co-star Olivia Rodrigo from High School Musical. We tried to get her on the podcast a while back. She wasn't available at the time, but we definitely had best wishes from both her and her team. And now, do you work at Disney? Do you still work for Disney or?
So the way it works for me is I work at different studios at different times. It's really like project to project. So I have a show coming out on Disney Plus soon that I just finished working on. I consulted on as a producer. It's called Morphle, and it comes out in a couple of months. It's a preschool show.
Nice.
Before that, I was at DreamWorks. I was supervising producer on the hit show Madagascar, A Little Wild, also a preschool show. Right now, I'm developing a couple of things. I can't actually mention them because they're all secretive right now. But that's how it works. It's like project to project. I mean, the truth is, most of my career has been at Disney. Started as an animator there, worked on lots of Disney movies and directed movies at Disney. But it's really fun going to different studios and just new people, and it's been an exciting ride.
So is it like freelancing then, or is it something entirely different?
Yeah, it's kind of like freelancing. That's exactly how it is. Yeah, it's really fun. It keeps it exciting. Different projects, different people, different day.
Very cool. And you're also a Columbus College of Art and Design CCAD alumni, correct?
That's right. Yeah. How do you know that school?
So I went to CCAD. I graduated from there in May of this year.
Oh my
And
gosh,
you may
I
not remember
forgot that.
this. We actually met around this time last year at CCAD, and I have a picture somewhere. Let's see if I can find it.
Oh, you were there when I returned to the school and spoke there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh
that's amazing.
that was me. That was
Oh my gosh, look at that. I love that. Wow, Ben, that's so cool. There's you and me on stage at CCAD, like right in front of the stage after I spoke. Wow, what an honor that was for me to return to my school and your school and be able to meet you guys.
it
How was
was
that school for you?
yes, it was let me tell you, it was a very well done presentation. One of my, if I'm allowed to say, it's one of my favorite moments about the presentations was when you showed this idea that you were pitching. It was like I believe it was an animation idea. It was a proof of concept, and it was about a little boy, and he was like transforming into a superhero, but it was like a Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde superhero.
Yeah, yeah,
Almost.
that's something I'm developing. Yeah. Yeah,
And
Kid Jekyll and Captain Hyde. Yeah, that's a project about a little boy who's the grandson of the famous Dr. Henry Jekyll.
very
And
cool.
yeah, that's so cool you remember that. Oh, it's so great.
So is that idea? Is it like the combination of Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein and the Frankenstein superhero that Hanna-Barbera did? Is that where the idea came from, or?
I mean, it just came from my imagination. With me and one of my friends at Disney, we kind of came up with that together. And yeah, it was just it's kind of a wish fulfillment thing. A lot of times when you're writing an idea, you think to yourself, what do I wish I could do? Right? If you're a kid, what do you wish you could do? Well, this is a kid who's in a wheelchair. So what does he wish he could do? He wishes he could walk. And one day, while developing the secret formula from his grandfather, Henry Jekyll, something changes in the formula and he ends up being able to do much more than walk. He becomes a superhero. And it's really, I really think it comes from just when I was a kid, just having those dreams, like all of us did, right? I wish I
Oh
could
yes.
fly. I wish I could be a millionaire. I wish I could, whatever, be in the NBA, whatever your dream is. That's really where it started from. You got to be a dreamer in life, right? Maybe you're not going to be a superhero. Maybe you're not going to be an NBA, but you know what? You got to dream about what kind of life we want. How do I elevate my life to living the best life I possibly can? If you're listening to this episode and you're married, how do you turn your marriage into an incredible marriage, the greatest love story ever told, right?
Very,
That's how do we get the most out of life? That's what I really try to focus on.
very true. And there was also a scene in the presentation that you were discussing where you actually met Michael Jordan, not the actor Michael Jordan, but the basketball player Michael Jordan.
Right. Yeah,
And
the actor, right, Michael B. Jordan.
yeah,
Yeah, I met Michael Jordan. That's right.
but in that scene when you were telling about how you met him and you were saying like if there's something I want to accomplish, I'm going to go for it. That's what inspired me to start building more connections and reaching out to more celebrities to get on my podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy you did that. Yeah, I mean, I think I was about 14 years old and I was in New York at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are about to play the Chicago Bulls, and Michael Jordan, in my opinion, is the greatest basketball player that ever lived. Today, there's some people that'll tell you it's LeBron James or Kobe or other, but at least back then, everybody knew it was Michael. And he's standing in the middle of the court. He's got those breakaway pants, the sweatpants they wear before the game with the buttons. And he's standing in the middle of the court. And I said to my older brother, Jay, I'm like, Jay, I'm gonna go walk out there and meet Michael. And my brother's like, you're not going anywhere. Before he could finish that sentence, I walk out to the middle of the court, I'm standing there looking up to Michael, and I say to him, "Hi, Mr. Jordan." And he looks down at me and says, quote, "Yo, how you doing?" End quote. And then he shook my hand. This one right here that I still have never washed. It still has the sweat from number 23. But it's true. The reason I walked out there is because there's a mantra that I really believe through and through, which is when there's something you really want in your life, you will do anything to get it. How bad do we want what we want? You can't give up. There is no can't. In order to get what we want, we got to get out of our comfort zone. We got to
Exactly.
strive. We got to go through pain or struggle, whatever it is. When there's something you really want in your life, you will do anything to get it.
Oh yes. And what was the inspiration of becoming an animator?
Well, for me, I saw the movie E.T. when I was 11 years old. I grew up in New York, and I just wanted to be a filmmaker. That was it. I just love movies. I started making short films with kids in the neighborhood and my sister and my older brother. And then when I was in high school, I remember someone came up to me and they were like, "What are you going to do when you get out of high school?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to make movies." They're like, "Well, if you want to do that, you're going to have to move out to Hollywood. Hollywood is filled with strange, weird people. You don't want to be a strange, weird person, do you?" And I was like, "No, I don't." So I gave up on that dream. It's always amazing to me when I even think about that, how so many times people can say something and change the trajectory that we're on in life, make us doubt ourselves or make us believe in ourselves. And so I gave up on that. And then, I don't know, maybe a year later, I see The Little Mermaid in the theater. I'm watching the movie. It's incredible. It's inspiring. And I realized that it combines my two passions, my love of drawing, which I did since I was a kid, my love of filmmaking, and it was animation. And plus, I found out that Disney had a studio in Orlando, Florida. Now I don't have to go out to LA, So there I was, a junior in high school, and I knew exactly what my dream was. My dream was to be an animator at Disney. And that's where I set the goal for myself. Yeah, so let's see, I was 11 when I saw E.T. I made a lot of short films for all those years. And then when I was a freshman in high school, that's when someone discouraged me. And a year later, I see The Little Mermaid, and boom, my dream was solidified. I want to be a Disney animator. And then I ended up going to same school as you.
Oh
One of the best art schools in the world. I mean, it really
yes.
was at the time. How was it for you?
It was a blast. The first 2 years, I mean, even though the COVID pandemic hit and we all got put online, it was still fun. But then when we came to in person, it felt very different because we were out for 2 years. We were online for 2 years, so it felt very new being back in person for the first time. And but senior year was a really fun year. I mean, it was a blast just to be at CCAD, even though the pandemic got in the way. It was still a blast. And
Right.
one of my teachers who became my mentor and also became a really good friend. His name is Professor Ben Toll, and he's in the environmental and character design department, and also comics as well. And he's going to be on the show in January, and he's been a great friend and a great mentor and also a great teacher as
Wow, that's great.
and he's helped me with a lot of signs because even myself struggle trying to get the right poses and the right facial expressions. Like he's been a big help trying to put me on the right path to get the right drawing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. So happy you had that experience.
Thank you. And what is the best advice that you would like to give out to CCAD students or people wanting to go into animation or wanting to go into Disney or DreamWorks or
I mean, the best advice for people that want to go into animation specifically is you need to remember at the end of the day, animation is a craft, it's a technique, but behind it has to be something. It has to be a deep sincerity to want to tell stories. It all comes down to storytelling, understanding the structure of story, beginning, middle, and end. Act one, act two, act three. There's an amazing book out there called Save the Cat. It's an incredible film book. I say everybody should read it. It doesn't matter what you want to do in movies, film, anything. If songwriters, Taylor Swift songs follow the structure of story perfectly. And This book, Save the Cat, is just the manual for understanding story. But after you have that structure memorized and practiced and you figured it out, well, then comes the sincerity behind who you are. Because at the end of the day, all of us need to tell our own stories. What does that mean? Does that mean I have to make a movie about my life? No. It means that anytime you're animating something, you have to put your own sincerity into what you're doing. There has to be something real behind it. If you're animating a scene, it's a love story. You have to really think about what you're like, an actor with a pencil. That's what we used to say at Disney. We are actors with pencils. Today, you're an actor with a computer, right? But you got to really figure out that sincere storytelling where you put yourself into your work. That's what separates great artists from average artists.
Very good. And we have one more question at the interview. Then I also have a Disney question after.
Sure.
But the very famous question of the interview is, since this is a retro show, what was your favorite retro product growing up?
Favorite retro product. My favorite retro product my whole life is Coca-Cola,
Good drink.
right? I collect cans of it. I have them from all over the world. I have them in my office. And I just love the logo. And first of all, it's the biggest product that's ever been created.
Mm-hmm.
It's in more places in the world than any other product. That's a fact. Apple, big company, yeah, they got nothing on Coca-Cola, because there's places where there's no Wi-Fi, there's no Apple, there's no iPhones, and they still got Coca-Cola. And I love that it's just part of our Americana. It's our culture. It goes back to the 20s, the 40s. You go to Disneyland, Disney World, you're walking down Main Street, and there's that little cafe with that Coca-Cola sign. I always take a picture with my kids in front of it. And I love the commercials. I love the commercials from the 70s. The Mean Joe Green football commercial. It's a great one where this kid gives this football player a Coke after a game. The football player lost, and the kid's like, "Here, Joe," and the football player opens it up and drinks the whole thing, and then throws the kid his jersey. It's like an amazing, right? Or I love the other commercial where they're on the hilltop, and it has the song. It has all these like 23-year-olds from all over the world, the most diverse group of nationalities and color. And it's everyone singing, "I'd like to buy the world a Coke," right? And it's like
Oh,
this
yes.
great, it's for everybody. So it's just, that's my product, man. That's it.
It's a
Not
good.
the healthiest, but it
Yeah.
sure tastes good.
No, it is not the healthiest, but it's a great product to have when you're like going to the movies or something.
Yeah. What's yours, by the way? What's your product?
Well, before I say mine, when some of those commercials I watched them on YouTube, but I haven't seen all of them because I'm 24, so that's brand new to me. But my favorite commercial from Coca-Cola was the one where the guy puts the quarter in the machine. It's like another world inside of a vending machine. It's like the
Oh
happiness
yeah,
factory. But
it's great.
my favorite product, it's a little hard to tell, because there's so many. Uh, Even though I'm 24 and I live in the 2020s, my favorite products would be items from the 80s. I guess you'd say Disney. I used to be a collector. I don't collect anymore, but back when I used to collect, I would collect a lot of Disney merchandise. Like
Oh cool.
whenever me and my family would go to Disney World, and
Okay.
I used to buy a lot of Disney merch. And actually, if I could show, I have a whole shelf with
Wow.
Disney merch with, yeah, basically Disney merch from like Disney World, sort of like from stuffed animals to action figures and to like little Funkos, like even shells from like the 80s. And
Wow.
some of them were actually gifts from my family back then.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
But I guess now that when you say that Disney now buys everything like Fox, for example,
Yeah.
I guess you'd say the Simpsons merch that some of us used to collect for us Simpsons fans. I guess you'd put that on the Disney shelf because it's now Disney property.
Isn't that crazy? I
It is
think that
crazy.
too. Star Wars is Disney. It's like what?
And Marvel.
And Marvel. It's really crazy. But our kids are growing up in a way that's just normal for them now.
Because I actually have a Turbo Man action figure from the hit Christmas movie Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh wow.
This is not the one from the 90s. This is actually in 2021, they did a remastered version, and this was a gift from that actually me and my brother did for each other. I bought one for my brother because my brother wanted one when he was very little, and then unexpectedly my brother bought one for me. So it became two brothers that had Turbo Mans.
Wow.
So
That's
it
so
was
cool.
because for the something anniversary they did a couple years ago for the anniversary they re-released Turbo Mans, like the actual Turbo Mans from the 90s when the movie
Right.
came out. And of course, me and my brother unexpectedly did gifts for each other. It's almost like if we were buying combs for each other or something.
That's great, man. I love
And
it.
the Disney question I do have, I don't know if this is true or false, but The Nightmare Before Christmas
Oh
is
yeah.
one of my favorite movies that Tim Burton and Disney have made. Like the animation is fantastic. I heard somewhere that there was going to be a soon live action adaptation of that movie. Is that true or false?
I mean, I've heard it too. I think the way Disney's going, I'm sure it would. I'm sure it is, but I don't know anything from the inside. I can't answer that. But yeah, I also heard it's true. I can't imagine they won't exploit everything they can to make money.
Of course. Yeah. Although it's kind of hard to see a live action version because the animation one is the best.
Oh yeah, you're so right.
But I suppose if you combined it Halloween Town, Hocus Pocus, and Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, I mean, there's live action Nightmare Before Christmas.
There you go. Right. That's true.
And now, if I'm right, so you don't celebrate Christmas, correct?
Well, I do and I don't. I'm Jewish, so Hanukkah is the main celebration of the holiday for me. But that being said, like we love Christmas music, so we play Christmas music. You know, when it starts, actually Thanksgiving is when we start to play. You know, a lot of Christmas music is, you know, non-religious, right? Winter Wonderland, things like that.
Yeah.
And we're just really into the whole Christmas spirit. We watch Home Alone. We have matching pajamas for our family that are like holiday pajamas. We watch Home Alone, and yeah, we just love that whole time of the year. People are on their best behavior. What's not to love?
And how does Hanukkah work? Do you get to like does everybody take turns lighting the menorah every day?
Um,
How does
yeah, I mean, there's basically we all have everyone in our family has a menorah, and you know, for every night of Hanukkah, we light a new light for each one of those nights. So the first night, everyone lights one, and it's like a little bright, and the second, and so on, it gets really bright. By the eighth night, it's just the most beautiful thing. All the Hanukkah menorahs in our home are lit, and it's just so bright and so beautiful. And the whole idea is how do we bring lightness into a world that's sometimes dark? I mean, that's really for all of us, you know, Jewish or not Jewish, you know, Christmas or not Christmas. It's all of us know what life is like where it's painful. Everybody goes
oh,
through pain. Nobody can escape pain. It's hard. Life is hard. You know, marriage takes work. Raising kids takes work. Finding out your career, getting your first job. It's painful. It's difficult.
oh
You know,
yeah.
people are like, oh, you worked at Disney. What a cool job. You won the lottery. It must be so fun. It's all true, but guess what? It's also really hard work and it's difficult. And I've worked with some great people and I've worked with some difficult people. I've worked on great projects in my career and I've worked on projects that I didn't love. Life is difficult. But at the end of the day, our job is to figure out each of us individually, how do I bring light into the world? And the beautiful thing about a candle, it's so amazing, is if you light a candle and you're out there in the sunlight, it doesn't do its job. It doesn't do anything. It's only amazing when it's in a place that's darkness.
Oh yes.
So that's why we have to find places where there's darkness and bring our light. You have to find, you know, people that are in pain and try to uplift them. And also, if you have a candle that's lit and a person next to you has a candle that is not lit, you can easily light their candle. You don't lose anything. You can literally share it. It's incredible. And when you share your light with someone else, what makes you an individual, your passion, you know, what your sincerity, like I was mentioning before, when you share that with someone else, well, now it just makes the world brighter. It's only good for all of humanity. You don't lose anything. You're just gaining more light. So that's what I try to remember. Yeah.
Very good. Very very well done. And
Thank you.
when you were saying how like finding the right career, like what career you're looking for, can be difficult as well. I mean, especially this year with both the writer strike and the actor strike that went on. Now, did the strike affect anything with you and Disney and DreamWorks, or did it not
No,
affect?
no. I mean, I'm a director, so I mean, it only affected me in the sense that I have a lot of friends who are writers, and in that sense, I felt for them and supported them, that kind of thing, because we're all kind of in this together. But it was relatively painless, and look, it all resolved well, and there we go.
Oh yeah, very lucky it's over.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, thank you again for joining today's episode, and happy holidays. And
Thank you so much to you too, Ben, and to all your listeners, everyone listening, don't settle for good when your life can be great. If someone comes up to you and they're like, how's it going? You're like, how's it going? My life's going good. Most people settle there. How's your career going? It's going good. How's your marriage? How's your relationship? It's good. But if someone comes up to you and like, how's it going? You're like, how's it going? It's going great. They'll be like, oh, that's really good to hear. I'm so happy for you. But what if they come up to you and they say, how's it going? You're like, how's it going? Let me tell you how it's going. It's going awesome. They'd be like, why? What happened? Did you win the lottery? Did you get your dream job? What's so awesome? What if you were like, no, no, you don't get it. It's just awesome to be alive.
oh yeah,
Every day can be awesome. Every moment of the day can be awesome. Every relationship can be awesome. Our jobs can be awesome. That's why I came up with my podcast, Living a Life of Awesome, Life of Awesome. So I wish everyone listening a life that's not good, a life that's not great. I wish you all a life of awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Ben.